Good morning. This is Horizon's Middle East and Africa. Our top stories this morning. Israel attacks Hezbollah targets and threatens further action over a rocket explosion on Saturday, while signaling an openness to proposed Gaza truce. It's a big week for central banks, traders looking for guidance on the global monetary policy path, with the Bank of Japan, Bank of England and Fed all set to meet in the coming days. And we're on the watch for results from Venezuela's presidential poll. We're live in Caracas later this hour. It has just gone 8 a.m. across the Emirates. I'm Joanna Versace over here in Dubai. Lots to get through on this show. We're going to talk about the geopolitical developments, the regional developments over here in the Middle East. But before that, another big week coming up for markets. We actually did manage to eke out a positive close for Wall Street on Friday. S&P and Nasdaq gains by the end of the day. But over the course of the week, what we did see was some very steep declines as we were tracking. Nasdaq ending the week more than 3% lower. S&P almost 2% lower. As we gear up for this big central bank week, we have the meeting from the Fed. Nobody's expecting a cut at this meeting, but again, strong signals about what's to come. We have the Bank of Japan. A hike is expected there. And then Bank of England, traders are about 50-50. As you can see today, though, the futures are leaning towards the green, both for the S&P and Nasdaq. Mega earnings also coming out of some of the Magnificent Seven this week. We will be talking about that on the show, too. So that also will set the tone. 10-year yield sitting below 4.2 now. We rallied about 4 basis points on Friday as that PCE number came in line with expectations. But again, many are pointing to the softening of the U.S. economy as the reasons for the Fed to start that rate cutting cycle. And then Brent, we continue to monitor closely, particularly in light of, well, two things this morning. One, the results of the Venezuela elections could be key for production coming out of Venezuela, and what that means for sanctions out of the U.S. Again, could be a catalyst for the oil markets, as well as, again, the regional situation and the crossfire that is taking place between Hezbollah and Israel. We'll talk more about that shortly. But finally, just a point on the central banks. I want to flip your attention to what's priced in. Well, this is something else. This is... well, it looks as though hedging bets on emerging market bonds have started to increase, which tells you that people are getting a little bit nervous about the outlook from here. Let's move on. And also check in on how markets in Asia are trading. Avril Hong is in our Singapore studio. Avril, what are you watching out for today?
Yeah, Jumana, we're seeing Asia equities climbing, snapping a 3-session losing streak, tracking Wall Street from Friday amid these bets of looming Fed rate cuts and how this could help corporate earnings. A couple of caveats, though. We're seeing the mainland still negative and trading volumes are lower than usual this time in the session, which tells you investors are watching out for the Fed, for the BOJ. And for the Japanese central bank, we have the likes of JP Morgan saying that we could see a 0.25% a hike to that level from the BOJ, including as well the sizable cut to bond purchases. So maybe we get a bit more hawkishness from the Japanese central bank. Dollar yen hovering at the 153.5 level. Jumana.
Avril, thank you so much. Big week coming up also for Asian markets. All right, well, Israel is threatening further military action after striking Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in response to a rocket attack that killed a dozen young people in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to exact a heavy price from Hezbollah, which has denied responsibility for the attack. Let's bring in Paul Wallace, who leads our economy and government coverage in the Middle East and North Africa, and Bloomberg's Dan Williams in Jerusalem. Dan, I'm going to start with you. First of all, what do we know about this attack? Because at first, Hezbollah did claim responsibility, then they denied responsibility. What is the latest, and how likely is it that we're going to get a meaningful response from Israel at this point?
Good morning. Israel, as you noted, has been consistent in saying this was a Hezbollah rocket that caused this carnage in a Druze town in the Golan Heights. Now, Hezbollah has some reason to try to backtrack from this, to try to shift attention and blame away from itself, as I don't think anyone thinks its intention was necessarily to cause civilian casualties, certainly not in a Druze town, given the various and complex cultural, ethnic, political backgrounds of the Golan Heights. It appears that this rocket was aimed at a nearby Israeli army base and may have fallen wide. Israel has been consistent. It published yesterday what it said was a map of the trajectory of this rocket from southern Lebanon. It's also worth remembering that the Golan Heights have come under fairly consistent Hezbollah attack in recent months, as the volleys of drone and rocket attacks from Hezbollah have continued, and Israel has responded with airstrikes in Lebanon. So it would not be out of place for this area to have been attacked by Hezbollah, but I think the carnage was really a surprise to everyone, and obviously something inconvenient and perhaps very worrying given what Israel has said about potentially imminent retaliation.
Yeah, and so far, we've talked about the daily exchange of crossfire. So far, it's been limited to military targets and not civilians. So from that perspective, it does mark an escalation. Paul, let me just put the next question to you, because at the same time as this was going on, we also got wind of ongoing ceasefire discussions that were taking place in Rome over the weekend as well. So what's the latest on that?
So they did resume yesterday. David Barnea, the head of the Mossad, Israel's external intelligence agency, went to Rome and he spoke to envoys from Qatar and some of the other mediators. He went back to Israel very quickly, so he's already left. It's a bit unclear just when those talks will restart or where they will. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has signaled that we are closer to a ceasefire deal that would see the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza and also the release of Palestinian prisoners. However, Israel keeps insisting that there's still a way to go. And one of the things that Israeli politicians have been coming out and saying in the last week or two is that the pressure they're putting on Hamas militarily in Gaza is putting the group, moving the group more and more likely towards accepting a ceasefire deal. So there is some sense in Israel that they need to continue putting heavy military pressure on Hamas for this deal to be agreed.
Yeah, is it likely that Netanyahu's trip to the U.S. is going to influence at all, especially because on Friday we were talking about the fact that Kamala Harris has talked about the need for a ceasefire deal and an eventual two-state solution. So that was pretty remarkable coming from her.
It was. There were strong words from her, and even if the substance didn't change much from what Joe Biden has been saying for the last few months, I think the style was different. It was a hardening in tone from her. She said she wanted the war to end, which is slightly different from saying she wants a ceasefire deal. So I think that's something Israel will have noted. However, Israel has faced a lot of U.S. pressure in the last few months to get a deal done, and we're not there yet. Hamas and Israel simply haven't been able to come to an agreement.
Dan, let me just come back to you on what a ceasefire deal could mean for Israel's calculus on the northern border. Assuming a ceasefire deal does get passed, would that mean that tensions everywhere else across all of these different fronts, whether we're talking about the tit for tat with the Houthis or what's happening with Hezbollah in the northern border, will all of those situations start to calm down as well, should this ceasefire deal get passed?
Indeed, those are really the terms that have been offered openly by Hezbollah and the Houthis, presumably any other militia in the region that's been operating under the instructions or at least partial sponsorship of Iran. The way they have cast their participation in this war is basically acts of solidarity with Hamas in Gaza, with Palestinians in Gaza, and they say the moment there is a ceasefire in Gaza, their own attacks will cease. So on the face of it, tactically, operationally, in the immediate term, that might have appeal for Israel, indeed, being on the receiving end of those attacks. However, the calculus of Israel's government, is more long-term. They've described the Hamas attack of October 7th on southern Israel, which was unprecedented, and set off this conflagration as really a game changer. And in turn, Israel wants to change the rules of the game. It wants to ensure as much as possible that, at least from Gaza, such a threat cannot emanate again against Israel. And that means pressing the campaign until the destruction of Hamas, or at least the conclusive dismantling of its ruling and military capabilities. So there are a few clashing vectors here. And I imagine Netanyahu, and I imagine actually the fact we have yet to see a significant Israeli retaliation in Lebanon for Saturday's carnage on the Golan Heights, may mean that he is factoring in the Gaza truce talks, trying to see the prospects for success there, trying to time both together, perhaps with a view to keeping the escalation threshold in Lebanon in check, ensuring it doesn't spill over into all-out war, but nonetheless meets Israel's requirement for what it would deem appropriate retaliation.
Dan, yes, thank you very much for the overview there and for your reporting. That was Dan Williams, our Jerusalem reporter, and Paul Wallace, who leads our economy and government coverage in the Middle East and North Africa. Well, just in the last couple of minutes, we've got some pretty surprising breaking news coming through from Venezuela. Maduro wins presidential vote. The Venezuela Elections Agency say Maduro re-elected with 51.2% of votes, according to the Venezuela Elections Agency. Edmundo Gonzalez, the opposition leader of the opposition, is the runner-up with 44.2% of the votes. A bit of a surprise because it's so far the opposition were running with a lot of momentum, and we're actually already celebrating before this announcement came through. Online, outside some of the voting centers, there has been a lot of concern from the West that these results may have been tampered with. And again, many within the country were looking for a break and an end to 25 years of single-party rule, many of them under President Maduro himself. And a short while ago, the president of Argentina, for example, had tweeted that the results were showing very strong very promising turnout for the opposition party. So very shocking here to see that the results have actually come out in favor of President Maduro. This just came in a couple of minutes ago per the Venezuelan Elections Agency, saying that Maduro has won this vote, again raising some questions about how transparent these elections actually were. Now, for a look at some of the other stories that we're following this morning as well, Iran's supreme leader has indicated that his country is open to easing diplomatic engagement with the West. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Iran has been, quote, treated badly in recent years on the back of sanctions, which have stifled its economy and oil exports. The comments came as Khamenei formally confirmed Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, on Sunday. And Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says the U.S. has to double its electricity production to dominate the AI and crypto sectors over China. The former U.S. president gave a keynote address at the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, saying he wants America to lead the way. The speech capped a complete about-face of Trump's stance on the asset class, which he labeled a crime-riddled scam while he was in office.
This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done.
And Vice President Kamala Harris has raised $200 million in her first week as a 2024 presidential contender, highlighting a surge of enthusiasm amongst Democrats. Meanwhile, Bloomberg has learned that she's zeroing in on a group of potential running mates. Sources tell us the shortlist includes Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Still ahead, investors are awaiting answers from major central banks on interest rate decisions. We dig deeper into what to expect this week with Dhabi Capital next. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to Horizons Middle East and Africa. I'm Jumana Versace in Dubai. While investors begin the week awaiting answers from major central banks after conflicting signals upended markets. The Bank of Japan and the Federal Reserve will make their calls on Wednesday, followed by the Bank of England on Thursday. Let's bring in Rashmi Garg, a senior portfolio manager at Dhabi Capital. Well, it is a big central bank week, coming on from a very big week for markets as well. Let me ask you, what do you think is going to be the biggest driver for markets? Is it going to be central banks this week or the rest of the Magnificent Seven earnings that are coming through?
It's a very difficult question, Jumana, because both the things are very important. We know that, the FOMC is a huge driver of the markets, and especially given that this is a meeting where we expect some direction in terms of what they're going to do in September. We do not expect them to cut rates during this meeting, but we do expect Powell to acknowledge that there has been progress on the inflation front and the job market is weaker, and therefore we should have the room open, the door open for a September rate cut. Having said that, I think the earnings will be a very big driver as well, because the AI theme has been driving the market so far year to date. And I think Microsoft especially is going to provide us some insights into whether this theme is still intact and whether we can expect more strength here, or whether there should be some profit taking given that we've seen so much strength in this theme.
Yeah, well, we've seen a major pullback for tech stocks last week. We've been talking about not just the pullback, but also the rotation going into small cap stocks. Do you think that this is just a blip and a short-term occurrence, or is that rotation, does it actually have some legs looking out into the future?
So I think there were a lot of factors which led to this so-called rotation in the markets. For a long time, people were talking about, the rally needs to be more broad-based. And then we see that last week was a very happening week in terms of, Trump becoming a front runner. We also saw the September rate cut getting fully priced into the market. We saw this very strong upward rally in the Japanese yen, which funds a lot of carry trade for the markets. And we saw a few earnings coming out. So I think all of these led to, and especially the rate, I think the rates are a big driver with the small cap index. But fundamentally, I do not see such a huge reason for this rally, and the reason being that, if you just look at the earnings picture for the S&P, for the earnings that have been so far released versus for the Russell, which is a small cap index, actually Russell is still declining. The growth year on year is negative, and it has been so for the last quarter as well as this quarter. For S&P, we still see growth. And according to us, these are still very profitable, growing companies with strong balance sheets, and fundamentals is what guides us in these markets. So we do continue to believe in the large cap tech.
Yeah, what about global growth concerns? That also should play into small caps as well. The fact that it wasn't just a shakeout in big tech stocks that we got last week, but you also look at industrial metals down 3%, a lot of these carry trades, and it feels as though increasingly so people are worried about the trajectory of global growth, be it coming from the US or China, with some of the momentum beginning to dissipate. How is that going to be reflected in where markets trade?
So you're absolutely right, Jumana. I think China is a big concern on the global growth map, and we've not seen any improvement here. And we saw it in a few European earnings as well, when we saw the luxury companies, especially the more challenged ones, coming out with lackluster results. We saw the autos coming out with fairly weak results. You mentioned industrial metals, and these also get driven by China. So clearly, definitely, there are concerns on the horizon regarding the global growth. However, we also saw the second quarter GDP growth of US coming out fairly strong. And AI as such, we feel this is a theme where, what is driving the theme right now is capital investment. There's not necessarily monetization happening. So it is really the deep-pocketed large cap tech companies which are driving the growth of this sector. And there we don't see so much of a concern right now. When monetization comes to the forefront, I think that is when we need to start worrying about this theme more.
Have you started putting on any US election trades or hedges?
So I think what is very certain about the US elections is there's going to be a lot of volatility leading into the elections. And for us, what makes sense right now is to have some protective hedges on the portfolio for that. When you expect more volatility, then you basically expect, vol to be higher, and you buy vol. So we have put on some, protective put overlays on our portfolio. We've also gone long gold, which we think acts as a good hedging mechanism for a portfolio.
Yeah, it's tricky because a week ago it was very popular to get involved in these so-called Trump trades, particularly the U.S. yield curve steepener. Do you think that trade will still have legs if, say, the polls start shifting towards Harris, which they already have started to do?
Yeah, so I think we will see some sort of a breather on the Trump trade, because now we feel that it is a much more closer election than it was with Biden being the contender. So we think that there is going to be a much more difficult, prediction. It's going to be a much more difficult prediction. Therefore, we expect more volatility, and we expect a breather on the Trump trades.
Yeah, makes sense. Rashmi, thank you so much for joining me around the set today. That was Rashmi Garg, Senior Portfolio Manager at Dhabi Capital. Well, just to pick up on the pretty astonishing result that came through from Venezuela a short while ago, saying that Maduro had been re-elected with 51.2% of the vote per the Venezuela Elections Agency. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is paying a trip to Japan, and he's actually been commenting on it. He has just said that it is important all votes are counted fairly in Venezuela. U.S. supports the democratic aspirations of the Venezuelan people. So in addition to that, he's also saying the U.S. is calling on Venezuela to share a detailed vote tally. And the reason he's asking for this is because up until this point, it had seemed as though momentum was with the opposition party. In fact, many from the opposition party had started celebrating what they thought was going to be a successful run for the presidency. But of course, we have just found out in the last 10 minutes that that did not appear to be the case, and that the agency are calling it for Maduro. So Secretary of State speaking there in Japan, saying the U.S. is calling on Venezuela to share a detailed vote tally. Well, plenty more ahead coming on the show. Stay with us. This is Horizons Middle East and Africa. Welcome back to Horizons Middle East and Africa. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Dubai. Well, it's been almost 2 years since Qatar hosted the World Cup, and the euphoria seems to be fading as state-backed lenders that helped finance everything from highways and hotels to stadiums and sewage systems grapple with rising loan losses. Bloomberg understands the Qatari government is now looking for ways to shore up these banks' balance sheets. Sources say deliberations are at an early stage, but options include hiring restructuring advisors, stepping in to buy struggling real estate portfolios, or forcing smaller lenders to merge. Bloomberg has learned that Apple's upcoming AI features will arrive later than anticipated. Sources tell us Apple Intelligence will roll out to customers in October as part of software updates. That means it will arrive a few weeks after the initial iOS 18 releases. Apple is said to be planning to make the AI features available to software developers as soon as this week for early testing. And as we head into day 3 of the Paris Olympic Games, Japan's strong showing on the skateboarding and judo has it leading the medal tally with 4 gold, 2 silver and 1 bronze. Australia is in second position with a good start in the pool and wins in women's cycling and kayaking. The USA, France and Korea round out the top 5. It is still early days. Well, coming up, Chinese investment is climbing in the Gulf region despite risks. We get the outlook next with the head of Macroeconomic Analysis at EFG Hermes Research. This is Bloomberg. This is Horizons Middle East and Africa. Our top stories this morning. Israel attacks Hezbollah targets and threatens further action over a rocket explosion on Saturday, while signaling openness to a proposed Gaza truce. It's a big week for central banks. Traders looking for guidance on the global monetary policy path, with the Bank of Japan, Bank of England and Fed all set to meet in the coming days. And Venezuela Elections Agency says incumbent Nicolas Maduro has been re-elected with more than 51% of the vote. We're live in Caracas later this hour with the latest. It's just gone 8:30 a.m. across the Emirates. I'm Joanna Bersachi in Dubai. Lots to digest. So when we talk about global politics, local, regional politics as well. But as ever, a quick check on markets. You can see both Wall Street futures are leaning towards the green after a more positive handover from Friday, with the indices managing to eke out some gains by the end of the session, though for the week as a whole, NASDAQ tracking 3% weaker, S&P almost down 2%, as we talked about that big rotation that's taking place out of the big cap, mega cap tech stocks into some of those small caps. This is going to be another big week. We've got the central bank meetings coming up. I'll talk about that in a moment. And of course, the rest of Magnificent Seven reporting as well. So major earnings week too to watch out for. 10-year yields about 1.5 basis points lower today, 4 basis points lower on Friday, as we got that inline PCE print. And then keeping a close eye on the price action in oil, even though it's down 3% over the course of the week today, we are seeing a bit of support as some of those geopolitical concerns get factored in. Our terminal chart today is looking at what is priced in vis-a-vis those central banks that are coming out with their monetary policy decisions this week. The Bank of Japan, the expectation is that they will go for a hike. For the rest of the year, there are 2 hikes now penciled in for the Bank of Japan. As for on the other side of the coin, you've got the Fed and the Bank of England, and the market is pretty much priced in for 2 cuts each. So Bank of England, 52 basis points of cuts priced in from now until the end of the year. The Fed, 69 basis points worth of cuts. So some people even think there might be 3 cuts to come from the Fed. So very interesting when you look at it from that perspective. Let's also check in on how markets in Asia are faring. Avril is in our Singapore studio. Avril, what are you watching out for today?
Yeah, Jumana, we're seeing investors really keeping an eye on the BOJ this week, perhaps bracing for more hawkishness. We have the likes of JP Morgan expecting a hike to 0.25%, along with reduction massively of bond purchases. So we're seeing that showing up in dollar yen as it's erasing some of the earlier declines and it's gaining ground against all its G10 peers, except for the Norwegian currency. But other than central bank action this week, is also going to be about those tech earnings, not just from some of these Mag 7s, but also Samsung, their reports in the middle of the week. We also have China PMI. So there's a lot on the docket for this week that could be market drivers. For now, there is a bit of risk appetite creeping back in, but don't forget it was a very bad week for equities just not so long ago. Jumana.
Yeah. Avril, seems like we're going to be very busy, you and me, looking at all these market moves as the week goes on. Avril, thanks a lot. All right, the Gulf is betting on China's rising overseas interest to attract foreign investment. According to Bloomberg Intelligence, China and Saudi Arabia's cross-border ETF collaboration is likely to unlock more inflows from investors in mainland China. However, the financial impact could be limited due to geopolitical risk, performance issues, and the novelty of the region as an investment hub. Let's bring Mohamed Abu Basha, head of Macroeconomic Analysis at EFG Hermes Research, who joins us from Cairo. Good morning to you, Mohamed. Thanks for joining us on the show. Let's just start off our conversation talking about the increasing amount of ties, economic ties, trade ties that are growing between China and the region. What, to your mind, is the catalyst for this rapprochement between China and the region, the GCC and the rest of the region?
Sure. I guess it's kind of the meeting point of a perfect meeting point for two wills. I mean, on the one hand, obviously the Gulf countries are hungry for investments along the journey of the transformation plans, and they need a lot of capital, and technology obviously needed to be attracted to help them with this transformation plan. I guess on the other side, China with its structural transformation on its own. Still a bit moving on the slow side. Obviously, they have a lot of surplus on the investment side and so on, that they need to find new markets for their own products and to diversify also away from their typically core markets of the US and EU. So it's kind of like a perfect match for both, actually.
When it comes to Saudi Arabia, how do you view the burgeoning relationship with China through the prism of what Saudi are trying to achieve with Vision 2030? How important is it to them that this relationship thrives?
It's obviously very important. As we said, obviously the biggest transformation, structural one, is in the Gulf, is happening primarily in Saudi, obviously due also to the size of its economy. And its population. So it is the economy that needs the most investments, within the Gulf. And obviously China here is key. Investments are targeted within energy sectors, energy for both the conventional one on the hydrocarbon side. Obviously lots of investments also needed on the renewable side. Again, China is very key here. On the manufacturing side, the whole notion of EV batteries and so on, there's a lot of cooperation that also, Saudi is seeking with the Chinese here. Infrastructure, the developments of particularly on the ports side and so on. I mean, there's a lot of interest, I guess, that Saudi will have in attracting Chinese money here.
And if you look at the overall inflow of FDI, what stands out is even though the numbers are increasing from China into Saudi Arabia or China into GCC, the U.S. FDI numbers are multiples of that. How do you think the U.S. is viewing the closeness of the relationship now, or increasing number of growing ties between the region and China? Should they be concerned?
I guess generally there has been a bit of a concern for sure, because there has been a major breakthrough in you can say so in the relations between Saudi and China, let's say in the last 3 to 5 years. And obviously we have not seen this just only on the economic side, but obviously complemented also on the political kind of geopolitical side. The rapprochement, that was supported by China basically for Saudi Arabia and Iran. Roles also it's been playing in other major files within the region. Definitely that has been taking a bit of the attention of the U.S. and definitely that's a delicate balancing act that Saudi Arabia also have to think about.
Mohamed, one of the questions people always ask is whether Saudi would go so far as to repricing the oil it sells into China into renminbi or into yuan. Do you ever see that as a possibility of happening?
Well, I guess it's something that always be on the table. From the Saudi perspective, this is a major card that they can play in their favor at different times. So I would never kind of rule it out completely, but I don't think that's something that we see happening anytime soon at all.
Okay. I want to round up a question just to bring it back to everything that we've heard in the last half an hour. A lot of geopolitical stories coming up, keeping a close eye on how oil is trading here. Let me just ask you, to round up our discussion, how you see oil trading towards the end of the year. And do you think that there is some complacency priced in to where energy is right now, given the geopolitical backdrop?
I think exactly what you mentioned at the very end. The geopolitics probably providing some support, to oil prices, and I guess it is marked obviously that we have, two major wars happening in the world. One even itself in the Middle East, and we've seen it, going a bit out of not just a one-on-one conflict, but it's been broadening a bit into regional war, and yet oil prices have not necessarily risen a lot. So I guess it's a bit of a reflection of concerns about global growth, and also don't forget that all this kind of relative only stability in prices is happening with very decent cuts obviously in production by OPEC plus. So I guess there's a lot of support from the war and the cuts, production cuts, but yet we're not seeing oil prices being able to go much higher from here. So I guess the downside risks are still much higher than any upside risks.
Yeah. Mohamed, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mohamed Abu Basha, Head of Macroeconomic Analysis at EFG Hermes Research. Thank you. Well, for more of these stories looking into the intersection of wealth and power in the region, sign up for our Mideast Money newsletter on Bloomberg.com. Today, we are exploring the closeness of ties between the region and China. So make sure you subscribe to that. It is up on your screens right now. Now for a look at some of the other stories we're following this morning as well. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has pledged to relaunch bilateral cooperation with China as she began her first official visit to Beijing. Meloni is seeking to stabilize relations with Beijing after last year pulling out of President Xi Jinping's flagship Belt and Road Investment Pact. Now, both countries signed a 3-year plan to strengthen collaboration in areas including trade, investment, education, environmental protection, and food security. Meloni is expected to also meet Xi during her visit. Chinese state media say at least 12 people were killed after a house collapsed in a landslide in Hunan province as heavy rainfall continued over the weekend. A city in the northeast also issued an emergency flood warning, while some 27,000 residents were relocated in Liaoning province. Beijing has allocated an extra $67 million in disaster relief for regions battered by weeks of torrential rain. And coming up, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro's grip on power is set to continue after he was declared the election winner by officials closely allied to his government. We're live in Caracas next. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to Horizons Middle East and Africa. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Dubai. Venezuela's Electoral Council has declared President Nicolas Maduro the winner of the election. The result comes despite independent exit polling suggesting opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez had captured twice as many votes. So for more, let's bring in our Latin America executive editor, Creighton Harrison in Caracas. Creighton, thanks so much for joining us. Bit of a surprise if you look at what was announced just half an hour ago versus some of the exit polls, which had suggested that the opposition leader was on course to win these elections. How likely is it that the public will actually accept this vote?
Well, that's really the million-dollar question that you're bringing up, and not just the Venezuelan voters who, of course, have gotten somewhat accustomed over the years to sham elections, but also the international community, which is really key here because the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has kind of tried to use this election to get back into the international stage after years of sanctions and being sort of blocked off from the international community. And he had hoped to win legitimacy through this election, sort of be accepted back onto the world stage. If he cannot show verifiably that these election results that show him as the winner are real, then he's going to have a lot of trouble doing that.
We heard from the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who's actually in Japan right now, a short while ago, and he said the U.S. calls on Venezuela to share detailed vote tally. How likely is it that we are actually, or the U.S. are going to get access to a detailed vote tally?
Well, we know that the opposition, which has been running against Maduro, has been seeking those details too and hasn't gotten them. The latest report we got from the opposition was that they've gotten about 30% of the tabulated votes they're supposed to have access to verify the count. Whether the international community can do any better has yet to be seen. There are some election observers, some of the ones that we all know, like the Carter Center, are here in Venezuela. We'll hear from the Carter Center supposedly on Tuesday with their report on this election, so we may get some interesting details there. But yes, the U.S. Isn't the only one. The president of Chile just came out and said that he will not recognize the results until he sees some verifiable results.
Yeah. So assuming Maduro manages to hold on to this position and actually is formally reelected as next Venezuelan president, what does that mean for sanctions? And again, we know that the sanctions applied by the U.S. have crippled the Venezuelan economy over the course of the last decade. Should Maduro get another term, what does it mean for the prospect of the sanctions and, of course, the Venezuelan economy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as you remember, the U.S. did actually reinstate its sanctions on Venezuelan oil a little earlier when it became clear that the Venezuelan regime wasn't going to have a totally free and fair open election as the U.S. had expected. But it has allowed some oil producers to continue and even to start new business in Venezuela through an application process that the U.S. has through the Treasury Department. So that's really the sort of lever that they could pull back on, but it remains to be seen when they do that. They have a lot of incentive to keep oil flowing from Venezuela for various reasons geopolitically, and also to do things that help improve the Venezuelan economy, because a lot of migrants are coming from Venezuela to the U.S. and they would like them to stay home and have jobs and be able to grow there instead of coming to the U.S.
Yeah. A lot is at stake on these elections. Let's see how it all plays out the next few days. Creighton, thank you so much for joining us on our show. Creighton Harrison in Caracas. Gracias. Coming up, investors are awaiting more earnings from big tech this week. We'll highlight what to watch out for next. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to Horizons Middle East and Africa. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Dubai. Investors are not only watching the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision this week, but also the next batch of tech earnings from so-called Magnificent Seven. First on deck are Microsoft and Meta. On Thursday, we'll get numbers from Apple, Amazon, and Intel. So for more on this, let's bring in Tim Craighead, Bloomberg's Director of Research and Bloomberg Intelligence. Tim, some of the biggest names in the world will be reporting this week I just listed. Will big tech results spark a turnaround in sentiment? We've been speaking of that big sell-off last week, the Nasdaq pulling back almost 3%. How likely are the results this week to change things around, or to turn the fortunes of Nasdaq around?
Well, I tell you, if you and I can come up with the right answer on this, we should be on a beach somewhere. It is the $64,000 question currently. And I guess my take on this is that the rotation in tech has been much more about what's going on with Fed policy than it has been about tech 2Q earnings per se. Expectations are for technology earnings to slow, still growing, but slowing versus the rapid pace we've had over the course of the past year or so. And with that in mind, we're looking at what we think is probably a bit of an asymmetric risk going into 2Q numbers for these companies. If they meet expectation, the market just may not care because it's looking at interest rate plays like home builders and property companies that have really been ripping in the U.S. If they miss, however, given lofty valuations, then it's it's a bad situation. And I think if you look at Microsoft as the first up, it's really interesting because revenue expectations are for 14% next year, which is a huge number. And if they guide off a little on that number, it could create a further risk.
Yeah. To what extent do you think markets are going to be watching out for AI expenditures coming out of these mega cap stocks? And also, the question is whether that's actually going to be a positive catalyst for these stocks or a negative catalyst. Because, for many, if a company comes out with these huge expenditure plans, it's not necessarily a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree with you on that. Microsoft, again, picking on that one since it's first up, is likely to raise its CapEx budget significantly, which could bring to an end its sort of multi-year margin expansion story. They will announce certainly further progress on AI. We're pretty optimistic on that front. We think that they probably will show good AI growth through their businesses, good solid growth in the Office franchise as well. Probably more risk to the overall just discretionary IT spending environment, which is still under a little bit of pressure. So, you've had AI as a positive boost. You've had the cycle more as a negative, and there's a little bit of a balance there, which is why we think that growth is likely to slow a little bit as we go into the second half and into next year.
Yeah, and then finally, just to wrap things up, I know it's early days in the earnings season, but what does the overall scorecard look like so far?
Yeah, well, I'm more oriented to the European numbers when it comes to, that sort of scorecard assessment. And actually, we're getting close to about half of the market having reported, at least in terms of market cap. So we've got a pretty good eye on how things are going. And at this juncture, it's 50% beat and about 20% miss, which actually is the best reporting period here in Europe that we've had in several quarters. So it'll be an interesting week here too. We've got a lot of banks, a lot of cars. In the auto area is definitely the one spot that's been a severe disappointment. Yeah. And Stellantis reports later today.
Yeah, watch out for that, especially after Ford last week, a big downturn there. Tim Craighead, Bloomberg's Director of Research on Bloomberg Intelligence, thank you very much. Just to round up the show, we're getting some breaking news out of Ethiopia now. Ethiopia has now allowed its currency to trade freely per the central bank, says exporters no longer required to surrender FX. They plan further reforms to correct foreign exchange distortions. And the catalyst for introducing this free-floating foreign exchange regime is to relieve FX shortages, removing constraints to private sector investments. This was per a tweet posted on X by the Ethiopian Prime Minister. So big news coming out of Ethiopia there as it pertains to FX. They are now liberalizing the currency and will allow the currency to trade freely. All right, let's round up the show taking a quick look at how equity futures are trading. We have a mega week coming up with the big central bank decisions looming. Bank of Japan, the expectations that they will go for a rate hike. We've got Bank of England on Thursday, 50-50. The Fed as well. No one expecting a rate cut at this meeting, but of course the stage is set for rate cuts further on in the year. This is a look at the equity futures, all of them leaning towards the green. S&P futures, NASDAQ, both pointing around 0.4 to 0.6% higher. And as we head into the European session, again, we continue with the earnings season. Euro Stoxx futures also 0.4% firmer. That was it for our show. Horizons Middle East and Africa. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Dubai. Stay with us for Daybreak Europe. This is Bloomberg.